Okay, so this is our first week's review for our beginning bridge class. And welcome to you guys that are attending live. And then, of course, this is being recorded and you'll be able to watch it later. All of these will be recorded. They usually come out late Sunday evening. It takes uh, Zoom plus YouTube a while to process everything and post them, but they'll be posted Sunday night. They're just available for you to watch after that. So if you have to miss a class, if you have questions about something that came up in class, that's what these review sessions are for. To take care of that kind of thing. And
Is this the same class as Wednesday, or do we also need to listen to that class?
no, this is the Wednesday class.
Okay,
The Sunday
wonderful.
review is a review of what we covered the previous Wednesday. And I try
Okay.
not to go outside of that. I mean, you may ask questions that weren't asked before, and that's fine. But I really try to stick to what was covered in the first class, et cetera,
Okay.
as we go through the weeks. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is kind of review what we are going to be doing during the class. So you'll have an idea of what to expect as we go through the class. So want to take a look at the syllabus. Everybody will get copies of these in class. I always hand out the hard copies, and then I'll send you actually copies of all the handouts that you get are also going to be available to you online. Um, and I haven't sent out these weeks yet, so I'll probably do that tonight when we send out the recording link. Anyway, there are two parts to this class. They started September 25th. We'll meet every Wednesday from 10 until actually not quite noon. It's about 11:45. There's a game that starts at noon, and we need to be out of the room in time for it to start. So 10 to 11:45, and then you get the bonus hour review every Sunday. So we'll meet basically 2 hours every week from last Wednesday through the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And actually, we'll talk as a class about that Wednesday before Thanksgiving meeting. Some people may want to move it to the later week, and I'm fine with that, but that's a bit down the road. We'll see what happens then. The class is divided into two sessions, and they are based on the two books that we're going to be using. Session one, the first 5 classes, are an introduction to bridge basics. And that will learn how to value the hand, how to do the bidding, how bridge works, and how to play bridge without interference from the opponents, where it's just you and your partner bidding without other people at the table bidding. So very basic. Then the second part of it is what's called competitive bidding, but it doesn't mean competitive bidding as in the case of, we want to see how well you can compete and if you can win gold. It's not that kind of competitive. It means competitive bidding means when all 4 people at the table are bidding. So it's really the way bridge really works most of the time because people at the table, everyone can bid. But it's easier to focus to learn the basics on just one pair bidding. So that's why we kind of divide it into two sections. You learn the basics first with just the two of you bidding. Then we go into some of the rules and how things change when there are competing bids going on at the table. So those are what we'll cover. The When you get the books next week, and we'll go over the books in class, we go pretty much in order through the books, but not totally in order. So keep an eye on the syllabus so that you'll know what we'll be covering the next week in case they're out of order. The big one that's out of order is the no Trump bid and responses are the first thing that's covered in the book. And they're the last thing that we cover in the first half of the class. So that's out of order. The second thing that I wanted to draw to everybody's attention, that's how the class is going to work. Oh, let me mention one other thing. You can see in each class, class 4, for instance, there's a practice and play session. And then in class 10 is actually a play party. So we'll just sit and play bridge the whole time. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this anyway, is for you to learn how to play the game of bridge. So we have to have plenty of time to learn how to play the game of bridge. So we put some into every class. And then we also have a couple of sessions where pretty much all we do is play bridge. Now, what you have on the screen now is some information about the American Contract Bridge League. The American Contract Bridge League is kind of the overall governing authority for bridge in North America, Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And because they are the governing authority, they are also the ones who sanction our club. We're an official member of the American Contract Bridge League. I'm authorized to teach classes for American Contract Bridge League because I went through training with them and got certified through them to teach the classes. And the American Contract Bridge League, ACBL, is what we call it, ACBL, has a lot of information for its membership. And I'd really encourage you to become a member. And because this is a sanctioned class of the American Contract Bridge League, they offer guest memberships to people that take this class. So this is the application that you'll need, and you'll have an actual copy of this when you come to class, and I'll send a copy of it to you. But this is the application you need to get this free guest membership. It's free for 120 days. And what you'll get as part of this free membership is weekly email bridge tips from a person, from Patty. Patty is actually Patty Tucker, who is one of the top instructors out of Atlanta, Georgia. And she's got great tips for beginners. That's what it's focused on. You can also earn master points and have them recorded for you if you play in bridge games at any center, particularly at our center, since we're here in Austin. If you play there, we'll record the points for you. You'll be able to digitally access their wonderful monthly magazine called Bridge Bulletin, which has great information from beginners to experts. So you can just find out anything you want to know about bridge in this magazine. And if you take advantage of this guest membership application and for the free 4 months, then you can also get an additional year at a special pricing of $29 for the first year. It's actually $49 per year. It's not real expensive in any case, but you can also get that. And this is just a QR code that you use on that to apply. You can go directly to the website and apply there. But if you use this QR code, it associates you with me as an instructor and our Bridge Center in general. And since you are with me and you are at the Bridge Center, that'd be the best thing to do. But you're not required to do that. You can get the guest membership by just going onto ACBL itself and signing up for a guest membership. When you get the guest membership, they'll give you a number. That number will stay with you for life. So even if you decide not to do anything more, that's your bridge number. So, okay, let's see what else. All right, that's kind of the administrivia part of this. So, oh, Jane, see you're here. Great. Okay, so then let's talk about bridge itself. And to start about talking about bridge is a card game. Plays with a regular standard deck of cards. And so we need to figure out what we know about a deck of cards to even get started talking about bridge. So here we have a deck of cards. We have some clubs, some diamonds, hearts, and spades. there are 4 different suits. These are called suits: clubs, diamonds, hearts, and spades that are in a standard deck of bridge cards. And these cards, by the way, are pretty standard worldwide. Some countries have other types of cards they play with, but all of them have in common that they have 4 suits, sometimes called different things. Nearly everybody recognizes these as standards, kind of like English is sort of a standardized universal language. These decks of cards are sort of standardized worldwide. So even though in a country like India or China or Netherlands, you might play with, or Spain has their own deck of cards, you might play with your own deck of cards. They recognize this deck of cards, and their cards are based on a similar setup with 4 different suits and 13 cards in each suit. And the 13 cards are the ace, king, queen, jack, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So it goes 2 through ace. Now, some card games have the ace being the smallest card, like a 1 below the 2. In bridge, it is the highest card. So it's the highest card, then the king, the queen, the jack, then the numbers going down to 2. So if we have this many cards, how many cards is this in a suit? 13. 13. 2 through the ace is 13 cards. So we have 4 suits, 13 cards in each suit. So how many total cards does that put in a deck of cards?
52.
52. 52. So there are 52 cards in a deck of cards. When you buy a deck of cards, if you play poker or other games, they have things called jokers in them, which are special cards that have special meanings in different games, assign special meanings. Bridge does not use those jokers. We are just the standard 2 through ace, 13 cards times 4 suits, 52 cards. So when you sit down to play a game of bridge, bridge can be played with only 4 people, and it must be 4 people. You really can't play it with 2 or 3. You need 4. And 5 is too many. And 6 is too many. So it needs to be 4. It's my kids are big game people. They play games constantly, board games too, not just online games, although one of them makes his living doing online games. But I asked them one time, because they know how to play bridge and they like playing bridge. I said, why don't you play these board games, social games, friends over, you do that. Why don't you play bridge? And the answer was because it requires 4 people who know how to play bridge, and only 4 or 8 or 12. So, it's that's limiting in some ways. That's also, though, I think why bridge was such a social game back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, was because 2 couples could play an evening of bridge at their house or at their club. And it was just a very social game that required 4 people. It's, over the years, we've lost that social aspect of it, although still there are plenty of people who play a lot of games, bridge games. Usually there's neighborhood bridge games and different groups of friends that play together. But anyway, 4 people make up a table of bridge. When you sit down, you have the deck of cards, you deal out the deck of cards. And so we deal them out until they're all dealt out. So when we deal out the deck of cards, how many cards is everyone going to have in their hand? Is each person going to have?
13.
13, as it turns out. It's the same 13. So when you have a bridge hand, which is your share of the bridge cards that have been dealt at the table, you'll have 13 cards in your hand. Richard, I see you made it. Welcome. Good to have you here. So anyway, we deal them out. The deal goes around the table. We don't need to worry about that really, but the cards are all dealt out. Everybody picks up their hand and then sorts it, because you will have some clubs, some hearts, some diamonds, some spades, total number of cards totaling 13. So you should sort them into suits in your hand so you can see how many hearts, spades, diamonds, clubs, and you will sort them in order in the suit. So if you have, 5 spades, you'll put them in order, like the ace and the jack and the 8 and the 4 and the 2, whatever, put them in order so you can see what your hand is. Once the cards are dealt out, you've sorted your hand and looked at your hand, then there is a bidding section, and that is to get the contract. Because in bridge, as opposed to other trick-taking games like hearts or spades in particular, in those games, it's trick-taking in that we play the cards and somebody wins each round. But in bridge, in hearts and spades, you kind of guesstimate what number of tricks you can take. In bridge, the big difference between bridge and what makes it such fascinating, one of the things makes it such a fascinating game, is that there is a structured bidding session before you play out the hand, where you and your partner, along with the opponents, have a conversation about what you have in your hand. Now, this is a structured, coded, special language conversation that you're having, but all of you have this conversation to describe your hand. And as you're having this conversation, the whole point of having this conversation is that you want to see where you should play, how high, and where you should be. Those are the two bidding questions that you're trying to answer. How high should we be? How many tricks can we take? We have a possibility of taking 13 tricks, but the likelihood is we're not going to take 13 tricks. How many tricks can we take? And how many tricks can the opponents take? And then the second question is, where do we want to be? Because in bridge, as opposed to spades, where spades are trumps, and hearts, where hearts are always trumps, in bridge, you can choose what's called a trump suit. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But you can choose any of the suits to be the trump suit. That is the highest suit, the most strong suit. You can pick one. Or you can decide to play no trump. That is, you are not going to pick a suit. The highest card in any suit will win. So this whole thing about the bidding is to decide these questions: how high and where. Now, in order to have this whole conversation, this coded conversation that you're having, we need to agree on, how do we value our hand? How do we know what our hand is worth? If we're going to try to decide how many tricks we can take, we have to have a way to discuss how good our hand is with our partner, who can tell us how good their hand is. So to do that, we've just come up with a method to use to value the hand. Everybody uses this method. A lot of things have changed in bridge over the years, but this valuation has not changed very much. People that are in the class that have played bridge 30 and 40 years ago will recognize this as pretty much the same valuation that's been used for quite some time. So let's take a look at what that is. Okay. So what we do is we look at all the cards in our hand and we assign a value to those cards. An ace, the highest card, is worth 4 points. The king, the next highest card, is worth 3 points. The queen is worth 2 points. And the jack is worth 1 point. So we just look at our hand count all the aces, we count as 4 points. All the kings are 3. The queens are 2. The jacks are 1. And we just add up all the points. And that's the first thing we do. Add up all your points in your hand. And then the second thing we do is right down here, we add 1 point for every card over 4 in a suit. So if we have 5 spades, we'll add 1 more point. If we have 6 clubs, we'll add 2 more points. If we have 5 spades and 6 clubs, we add 3. We add 1 for one, 2 for the other. That's 3 extra points in addition to all the points we have for the kings, queens, and jacks in the hand. Now, think about this. If the values are that an ace is 4, a king is 3, a queen is 2, and a jack is 1, how many total points are available in the deck each time we sit down in that round of bridge? How many points are available? It's going to be 10, which is 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. 10 points times 4, the 4 suits, 10 points in each suit, 4 suits, 40 points. So there's 40 points available in every hand, plus a few more points for what's called the length points. So when we sit down and we've been dealt out a hand of bridge, what is the most likely amount of points we're going to have in our hand? What's the average number of points? It's going to be 10, right? Because there are 40 points and we deal them all out. The average hand is going to have about 10 points in it. So if you have more, if you've got 13 or 15 or 20 points, you've got more than your share. If you've got 2 or 5 or 8, you've got less than your share this time. So everybody at the table is in the same boat. Everybody can value their hand, and it's either more or less than the average that you have. But the average is around 10 points per hand. The more points we have, the less points somebody else has. So, it's a zero-sum game. It's only 40 points. So if I've got 15 points, there's 25 points out in the deck. But if I have 30 points in my hand, which I'll never have, there's only 10 points to be spread around the other 3 people. So there's only always 40 points, plus a few extra for the length. But 40 points is what we generally focus on.
Sally, I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you go back? I understood 1 point for every 4 in a suit, 4 cards in a suit. Then you added that there were 2. I missed the next part.
Now, those length points are if you have more than 4 cards in a suit. If excuse me, if each suit were dealt out equally, it would be 3, 3, 3, 4, if they're all dealt out equally. But they're not. Somebody will get more, somebody will get less, the same way somebody gets more points and somebody gets less points. So if you just have 4, that's kind of an average number. But if you have 5 or 6 or 7, that starts being good, better, useful. So when you have more than 4, you add a point for each one you have over 4.
Okay, now I get it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
And for each suit, you do that. So you might have 2 or 3 suits that have more that you're going to add in there. Okay. So in order to start to think about what these valuations mean, because they'll be dealt out and we'll figure out how to value each hand, let's practice kind of valuing our hand for a minute. Let me go over here. Okay, this is an online bridge game called Bridge Base, and we'll talk about that in class later, about how you can get on and how you can play here. I'd really suggest you do that. But for right now, just for us to look at some hands, if you were at the table, if we were, playing bridge and at a table, we would do this at the table. But let's just look at some hands here. These have been dealt out to you, and right now we can see two hands. In bridge, you'll see this N, E, S, and W. Just to help us orientate ourselves at the table, we just name the seats north, east, south, and west. It just lets us refer to the hands easily. This is kind of conventionally we do this in bridge. Anyway, let's look at this north hand and let's count up how many points this hand is worth. We've got 3 for this king, 4 for this ace, that's 7. 1 for the jack is 8. 4 for this ace is 12. 2 for the queen is 14. 1 for the jack is 15. 15 high card points in this hand, plus 1 extra because we have a 5th diamond. You see that? There's 5 diamonds. And so the total value of this hand would be 15. Now, is that good or bad?
It's good.
It's good. It's more than average, right? 10 would be average. This is more. We've got more. Let's look down here at the south hand. The south hand has 4 for this ace, 3 for this king is 7, 3 for this king is 10, 2 more is 12, 3 more is 15. So 15 high card points. Do we have any extra points to be added on this hand?
No.
No, because we don't have a suit over 4. So this is just 15 points. And this one was this 14 high card points plus 1 for length? Can't remember. But anyway, this is either 14 or 15 points because we counted 1 extra for length. Let's look at another one. Okay, just gonna go back and start again, so it'll give me another hand. Okay, now you do this one on your own. You guys just go ahead and look at this hand, figure up how much this is. Let's look at the north hand first. You counted that up?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I count that as 11 points.
Yep.
Everybody got that?
Yeah.
No extra points for length here, just the high card points. Let's look at the bottom one. Has everybody got a chance to do that?
Yep.
I count that as 16 points. Does everybody see 16 points there?
Yes.
And this is another one. We didn't have any extra length, did we? There's
No.
not a suit over 4 in that hand. Okay. Now, when you're playing bridge, your best friend is the person sitting directly across from you at the table, because there are 4 people at the table. The person right across from you is your partner, your best friend in the world. We love our partner. We value our partners. We cherish our partners, okay? They are on our side. The other people at the table are not on our side. These are our opponents. So bridge is a partnership game. And what you're looking for is you and your partner to communicate how high and where you belong, as we discussed earlier. The opponents are trying to do the same thing. In the first half of our class, as I said earlier, we're going to kind of ignore the fact the opponents could have cards. Okay. They're not going to have enough points to bid while we're talking about in the first half of the class. The second half of the class, yeah, they're going to start coming in and giving us trouble. But the first half of the class, we're just going to be talking about you and your partner and what you have together. So when we are valuing our hands, we communicate with our partner about how much each of us has, and we add those two things together, because that's really the value of our hands is what we have together, not what we have individually. So if I have 5 points, but my partner has 20 points, we've got 25 points between us. We've got well more than half the points in the deck. So even though I don't have much between us, we've got a good hand. So that's the nice thing about the partner. You rise and fall together. That's what you have between you. That's the important thing. And that's, what we're counting up and what we're looking at. The second part of that tells us how high part. The number of points we have tells us how high we can go. The where we choose to be is based on whether or not we have a fit for a suit. Now, there are 13 cards in any suit, right? 13 cards in each suit. If we divide those out between us and the opponents, if we have at least half, how many cards would we have between me and my partner? We have at least half. We would have 7, right? That's at least half. We can't have 6.5. That would be half. So if we have 7, we have more than the opponents. They have 6. We don't have much more than the opponents. 7 and 6. But if we have 8 between us, now we have 8, they've only got 5. That's a much better fit that we look for. We call this a magic fit, is when we have 8 in a suit. And that's what we're looking for. 8 in a suit is called the magic fit. When we're bidding with our partner in this coded bidding system that we'll be going to, we're talking about finding the magic fit, finding an 8-card suit that we can play. If we don't have an 8-card suit, then usually if we have kind of evenly divided hands, you remember that last hand we valued, there were no extra suits, no extra cards in any suit. And so we probably had 7 or 6 cards in every suit between us. We didn't have an 8-card magic fit. That hand would have probably been more appropriate for no trump. But when we have a magic fit of 8 cards, we want to designate that suit as the trump suit. The trump suit allows us to use that suit. If we don't have another suit, we can play that suit and it will win the trick. That's the importance of these suits, because it becomes the top card. The suits are ranked, and if we pick a trump suit, that's going to be the highest suit for that hand. And so a card, if we play a card in that suit, it will beat every card played in every other suit. Okay. Now, the final thing we need to look at is how we put this together, how we decide this how high and where business. So, and to do that, I just want you to take a look at what we call the bidding ladder. We're going to spend a lot more time starting next week looking at this bidding ladder, because it has a lot to do with how we bid, how how the bidding works, how we decide how to go, how the scoring works. But the important thing here is that the bidding ladder starts with one club down here at the bottom, one club, and it goes up in order. One diamond, one heart, one spade, one no trump, up, 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 until you get all the way to the top. The most you can bid is 7 no trump. That's at the height of the bidding. Now, a weird little quirk about bridge is that when you are bidding, you are always assuming, if you're bidding, that you can take more than half the tricks. More than half the tricks would be 7 tricks. Okay, because again, 6.5, we can't take a half a trick. So we want to say that we can take 7 tricks. And a trick is 1 round of play. We'll see all this in a minute. If you're getting bogged down, it's going to help when we look at the cards in just a minute. But anyway, if when you play 1 round, the highest card is going to win. The most we can win in bridge is 7, because every bid that we make assume we're going to take 6 tricks. So if we bid 1 no trump, we're really saying we can take 6 tricks plus 1 more. When we bid 5 spades, we're saying we can take 6 tricks plus 5 more for a total of 11. And you'll see how each level of the bidding ladder, the 1 level is 7 tricks, the 2 level is 8 tricks, the 3 level is 9 tricks, and so on.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How do you define a trick? What is a trick?
It's 1 round of play. Every person plays a card, and so there'll be 4 cards, and the highest of those 4 cards wins. That 1 round of play, those 4 cards, is a trick. And we're going to—
Is that like does that mean you're laying a card on the table?
Laying a card on the table, and we're about to go look at that in just a minute.
Okay.
Yes, that's what it is. So each level, these points we talked about before, the 40 points that are available, if you can take the 1 level, which is 7 tricks, you need to have at least half the points between you and your partner. So you need to have 20 or 21 points. To go to the 2 level, you need to have 22 or 23 points. The 3 level, 24, 25. The 4 level, 26 or 28. In other words, the more cards you have, the more points you have, the higher you can bid. So at this first beginning part of bridge that we're going to look at, all we're going to be looking at is how many points we have between ourselves and our partner, and how many cards we have in a suit. So depending on our points, we're going to say how high we can bid. And if we have an 8 card fit between us, we're going to say that's going to be our trump suit. So I know you've committed all this to memory now. Well done. So let's go over here and see how this is going to work. And I want to go back here and get a different hand. Okay, so here are the hands we're going to be playing with, okay? If you're sitting at the bridge table, you can, during the bidding process, it's different than this. You could see only your own hand. You can't see your partner's hand. Here, right now, we can see 2 hands. So that's not really how it works usually, okay? So I want to point that out first. But let's take a look at the north hand. See how many points are here. We have 4 aces is 12 points. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 for the extra length in spades. So that's 13 points that this hand is worth, right? Now let's look down here at our partner's hand. Here we have 7 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, plus one more for length is 16 points. 16 points.
Isn't there 17 in that one?
Thank you. I was seeing if you were paying attention.
Oh,
No, I missed it. But yes, there
Okay.
is 17 because we have 2 extra points for length, don't we? 5 hearts and 5 clubs. So it's worth 17. So 17 in our hand plus our partners is 13. That's how many points total?
30.
30.
30. That's a lot. There's only 40 in the deck, and we have 30 points ourselves. So let's look over here at the bidding ladder and see how high does it tell us to go when we have 30 points. It's way up here at the 5 level, taking 11 tricks. Okay, that's how much we should be able to get when we have 30 points. All right, so that's what we're going to bid here. And then we want to select our trump suit. To select our trump suit, we want to see, do we have 8 cards in a suit? Do any of these suits between the 2 hands have 8 cards in them? If so, that's what we want to pick as our trump suit.
Just the clubs.
The clubs. We do have 8 clubs, right? And that's the only one we have 8 cards in. We've only got 6 spades between us, 7 hearts between us, only 5 diamonds, but we do have 8 clubs. So we're going to select our trump suit to be clubs. And then it says, how many tricks over 6 will you try to take? And we are going to try to take 5. Okay. 5 plus our 6 is 11. That's the level it told us we should be able to get.
Excuse me.
Yes,
What I'm confused on is you said you can't see your opponent's card.
that's right.
So how do you communicate that you have the 8 in one suit?
Okay. At this point, what we do is before we show our cards at all, we just look at our cards, and each person at the table says, I have 13. The next person says, I have 5. The next person says, I have 18. The next person says, I have 6. So you just say out loud the number of points you have.
Okay.
Then the pair that has the most points is going to be what's called the declarer and the dummy. The declarer is the person that plays the hand. The dummy puts his hand down on the board so we can see. So the person with the most points, his partner, the other person, puts his hand down on the board. Then everybody can see that person's hand. Bridge is different than any other card game in that you can always see 50% of the cards, 26 cards. You can see your hand plus the dummy's hand. And the dummy, it's called that not in any pejorative sense that you're a dummy, so you lay your cards down. What it means is it's actually taken from a French word, which means to be silent. The dummy cannot speak, does not have anything to do with the play of the hand. Once the contract is decided, then the dummy puts his hand down on the table, and the declarer, his partner, is the person who declared what the contract was going to be. That person actually plays the hand and plays the cards for the dummy. The dummy doesn't get to make any decisions. The declarer decides what to play. So once this has been decided, in this case, we've decided that the contract is 5 clubs, meaning we will take 11 tricks with clubs being the trump suit. Then the dummy puts his hand down, and this is the dummy hand up here at top. This is the declarer's hand down here at the bottom. And the person to the left of the declarer, in this case, West, South is the declarer, in this case, West is going to lead the first card. He will
Wait,
lead out.
one more question.
Sure.
How did you know who was the dummy and who was the declarer?
The way we're playing it in our mini bridge, which is what we're doing today, mini bridge, it is the person with the most points is the declarer.
So, okay, so the top one is the declarer, right?
No, the bottom one is the declarer. They have 17 points in the
I thought that, oh, okay. I thought the top one did, sorry.
no, the top one has 12, 13 points.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay, so the highest one is the declarer.
And the way we're playing it, yes.
Okay,
Mini bridge.
okay.
What we're doing is called mini bridge. It's just a way to play bridge without having to go through learning the whole coded system of bidding.
Okay.
The play, though, is how you will play. So here's how we play the hand. The person to the left of the declarer leads a card. We can't see his cards right now. We'll see them at the end. So we can't see his cards, but he has chosen to, for whatever reason in his hand, he's chosen to lead the 3 of hearts. So each person plays a card. And if the hearts were led, if you have a heart, you have to play a heart. And the highest heart played of the 4 cards that are going to be played to this trick, the highest one will win. So we will just play a low heart here. Then this guy will play. And now we will play a card on this trick. And in this case, we would like to win this trick. We would like to put the highest card on it. And the ace and king are both higher than the jack, right? When we talked about the value of the cards, the ace and king, queen, jack, 10, etc. Or it's the how they go in order. So I'm going to win this trick with the queen. Excuse me, the king. I could also win it with the ace, couldn't I? Either one would win this trick. So I'm just going to play the king. It doesn't make any difference which one I play. Both of them would win the trick. I can play either one. I'm playing the king. Okay, that is the trick. The 3 was led, then each person follows, plays a card, any card they want out of their hand. And then I get to play the last card. Now, let me point out something to you. When you're playing, you have to have a way to figure out, what should I play? How do I know what to play out of my hand? And a rule that you can usually use, not always, but usually, is the second person that plays to the trick plays a low card. And the third person plays a high card. Now, in this case, the 3 of hearts was the first person to play. West was the first person. The next person to play was North, and North, second position, played a low card. Third position usually plays a high card. Now think about this. The first person played a low card. The third person is the first person's partner, right? East played first, then North, West played first, then North. Now it's East's turn. East is the third person to play for his side. If he wants to win this trick, he needs to play the highest card that he can play. So second hand low, third hand high. If you can remember that, and we'll go over this a lot, this is kind of helps you decide which card to play. So anyway, he third hand played a high card, the jack. We took it with the king. Because we won with the king, now it's our turn to lead to the next trick. And I would like, usually what I do first is bring the trump in. I've got 8, but that means the opponents have 5. If anybody plays a card and they don't can't follow suit, they could trump. So if, for instance, I played another heart and East or West were out of hearts, it's not likely, but it could be, then they could trump. They could trump my ace and my ace wouldn't win. So I want to pull the trump out of the other people's hands before they can trump in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the queen of clubs. They play a low club. And now I could win with the ace, right? But I'm missing the king of clubs. So I'm going to hope that maybe West had the king of clubs and maybe my queen will win. So I'm not going to take my ace. I'm going to play the 3. And if West had the king, my queen is going to win. If East has the king, it's going to win, but it's going to win always. So can't do anything about that. Oops, he had the king. Okay. Now it's his turn to lead because he won. The king of clubs was the highest one. I have to follow suit. He's led a diamond. I play a diamond. His partner, who, by the way, notice is third hand. This was 2 was first. The jack was second. I played the lowest one I could. Then the king is the third hand high. He played the highest one he could. But I can win with the ace. And notice that when I win with the ace, my queen is good. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Because it's the highest one. And that 10 is also a high card, right? Because the jack and the king are gone. So you kind of have to think about things like that as you're playing. So I'm going to play the ace. Then I'm going to play, I still want to bring those clubs in. So now I'm going to play and let me ask you this. I started with 8 cards. So how many cards did the opponents have in clubs? They had 5, right? If I have 8, there's 13 cards. They have 5. The first time I led those clubs, they played 2 of the 5. So there's still 3 out. So I want to play clubs until they don't have any anymore. So I'm going to lead that ace of clubs. And I'm just going to play a low club here. Oh, good. They both played one. That's 2 more. So that's now 4 they've played. They've got 1 more out. So I'm going to lead clubs one more time to get that last club. And there it is. Okay. And I can just play the 7 now because I know my 8 is going to win, right? There's no more clubs out. So nobody can play a higher club. So I just play a little club there. Okay. So that's all the clubs. Now I don't have to worry about anybody trumping. So now all my high cards will win. So I'm going to play the 7 of diamonds because I'm still in the dummy hand, and the queen. And then I'm going to play the queen of spades and take it with the ace. And then I'm going to play the 10 of diamonds because remember, I noticed that that was good earlier. And so that wins. And now I'm going to play just a little spade. Okay. Because I can trump it. They can't, they're going to play a higher card, but I get to trump. I can trump that spade. So they can't win a spade. So I play the 9 of clubs, will win the trick. And now I'm going to play my ace of hearts. And I have to play a heart over here. Okay. Now I've got 2 hearts and a club. I know I've got 1 more trick, but I can only afford to lose 1 more trick, right? To make our 11 that we said we were going to make. So I'm going to play this 10 of hearts. I know it's not good. There's higher ones out. Sure enough, they play the queen. Oops. And now they've played the 7 of hearts. See, shows me down here they've taken 2 tricks. Now they're going to play their 7 of hearts. That's going to win. And now they play their last spade. I can trump that. So my jack is going to win, but they have taken 3 tricks. So I can only take 10 tricks. And I promised to take 11 tricks in the bidding. Okay. So I won 10 tricks, but it tells me the contract failed. So I lost 50 points there instead of getting points. I would have gotten points if I had made the contract. Now we'll learn in play of the hand, because we're going to be talking about that. You need to both learn bidding and play of the hand. In that hand, there was a way I could have made that trick, that contract. What I needed to do was trump some hearts in the dummy before I pulled my clubs. If I had done that, they couldn't have taken that extra heart trick that they got, that I couldn't afford to lose. Yes.
Excuse me, with the trump, like if you started with a heart and then someone else started with a heart and you have no more hearts, so you put a club down, you're winning that? You're
That's
not,
right. That's
why
right.
are you winning it? Because you're trying to get rid of your hearts and then you have,
Well, I'm winning that because anytime we decided that clubs were our trump suit, the trump is the highest suit. So
oh,
anytime the trump is played on a suit, it wins. That's the value of the trump. Okay.
oh, okay, got it.
And so that's why we want to have a lot of trump between us. And we don't want to leave trump in the opponent's hands, because then if I just play my cards and leave trump in their hands, when they run out of hearts or spades or diamonds, they can use one of their trump to trump what would otherwise be a good trick for me.
So, so if you declared clubs trump,
Mhm.
but like if someone else started a hand and say hearts, but they ran out of hearts and they had no clubs for the trump and they put a diamond, they don't win that hand, right?
That's right.
Because
That's
you
right.
only are winning it when it's a club.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
okay.
right. Only the clubs win. If hearts have been led and you don't have any more hearts, you can throw any other card that you want, any low card
But
out.
you're not winning it. You're not
You're not
winning it.
winning it. You're throwing it away.
Okay.
You're just getting rid of it. You have
But
to.
not every round has a trump suit because you only have a trump suit if you have 8 or more, right? Or
That's
do you
right.
always?
Exactly. No.
Okay.
No. Only if you have this in this game we're playing. Only if you've decided you have 8 or more in a suit, then you're going to play that suit. If you don't have 8 or more between you in any suit, you'll wind up playing what's called no trump. And in no trump, the highest card wins no matter what suit is played.
Okay.
And no discarded card from another suit can ever win the way it can if there's a trump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
And
it.
there's advantages and disadvantages to both things. The trumps, you have an advantage because you can trump in and win, and you have more control. In no trump, you can sometimes have long suits that will win a lot of tricks, that you can set up to win a lot of tricks. Plus, all your high cards will win tricks in no trump. It's just a different way to play. And as we go through the class, as we are playing more and more, you'll see this more and more. I mean, this one hand you've played now that worked out as it did. But bridge, there are there are billions actually of possible hands that can be played, which also makes us different. Even if you think I've seen this hand before, there's differences to it to other hands. The opponents have different, your partner's different. I mean, it's never ending fascination with the game because it is just different every hand you play. You find similarities, you find probabilities and what is going to happen, but it is different every single time that you play it.
And so you lost the hand because you said you wanted 11 tricks, but you only got 10.
That's right. If I had made my contract, I would have gotten 20 points for every trick that I took over 6. So that would have been 5 times 20 for 100. Plus, I bid a game 11 is as a game. We'll talk about that later. So I would have gotten 300 or 500, depending on the situation, for that. So I would have gotten either 400 or 600 points for making my contract. Instead, I lost 50 points. And that's the thing about bridge. You want to bid as high as you can if you can bid to the game level, because that gets you the most points. If you can't bid to a game level, and we'll talk about this next week, then you stop as quick as you can below, because the points are the same below a game level. If you bid 2 and make 4, it's the same thing as if you bid 4 and made 4 below game level. So we'll talk about that next week. Don't worry about the scoring and all that. Now, we actually aren't even going to worry about scoring in beginning bridge, and we might talk about it at the very end, but the scoring's pretty weird and obscure. You had enough on your plate without having to worry about that. Okay, so next week, what we're going to cover is we'll play a couple of more hands like this in class, so that you can get more practice with this whole idea of trick taking and which card wins and how you know which card to play out of your hand. We'll do a couple more of those. Then we're going to talk about actually the official bidding, because we skipped that this time, this mini bridge that we were playing. All you do is say out loud the points in your hand, and then look at your hand and your partner's hand to decide what trump suit is. Well, when we're actually playing bridge, we use this kind of coded language to describe our hand. We're going to start next week learning that coded language that we're going to be talking about to describe our hands and how that works. So, okay, any other questions from what we covered in this little review session? All right, guys, that concludes this review session, and I will see you Wednesday in class.
Thank you so much.
That was great, Sally. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.